Streeter.
Here.
Councilman Melder.
Here.
Councilman George.
Here.
Councilman Martin.
Here.
Councilman Gentry.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Just so that you and the audience will know, what we try to do at our city council meetings is we try to have one of our veterans who serves in the city to lead us in the
Cocker Spaniel rescue. That's what we do. And we find you're automatically afraid. What happens if someone aggravates that dog? And it doesn't necessarily have to be a pit bull. It can be a Rottweiler. It can be a Doberman Pinscher. In the past, we've had all kinds of accusations about other breeds of dogs. So what happens if someone provokes that dog and aggravates that dog? It's not fair to that animal is all of a sudden, says he is a dangerous dog because someone provokes that animal. We have to remember that we are humans and we have the knowledge that the animals do not. That's what we're also concerned about. We have to take into account who's going to aggravate the dog, or if they do aggravate the dog. I mean, etiquette classes, I know you're laughing at me, but this is serious to us because we are animal lovers, and it doesn't matter what...
up and tell us your thoughts. We really don't respond to you that much in this type of inquiry. This is going to be an agenda item number 2, and that's when Mr. Winberry is going to explain to us. But you get to give us input, but...
is it going to be breed specific, or...?
Well, you'll just have to hear what we're fixing to do. But I'm going to make one comment. This is a general comment for everyone that's here tonight on this dog ordinance. We as a council take our job very seriously here. And the problem is there have been a number of people who have been attacked here in Conroe. And so things come about where we have to protect the citizens of Conroe. That's our ultimate charge here, is to serve and protect the citizens. And because some dangerous breeds are attacking some of our citizens and attacking some of their pets, this has come to our attention. And so we have to address that as the city fathers and leaders. It's kind of like the garage sale ordinance. People abuse the system, so we had to put in an ordinance to take care of these people who abuse the system. And that has to do with dog owners too. Some of these dog owners probably shouldn't be dog owners.
Right.
But we have no control over that.
It's because one of those particular dogs is on my street directly across from my house. An attack has occurred and it's not been taken care of, not sufficiently for the person who is right next to that. So I'm coming in support of her, but also to go over the ordinance as well. I glanced very quickly through that ordinance. You're saying secure fence. Cyclone fences are secure, but if you have toddlers who are part of a daycare center next door, it's not secure. Little tiny hands can go through there that want to pet the puppy, and the puppy's not a good puppy to pet. The puppy's been charged to guard his yard, but the children don't know that. And this is where it's concerns me. It's like putting a tiger in a pen here and a lamb in a pen here. The time to stop
by the pit bull, and his dog was killed. It looks to me that the only thing that animal control can do is simply to put a notice on the owner's house that there's been a problem with the dog.
I've read your ordinance several times and I like it. I have a few questions, but I hope Conroe just came out with a budget cost them $500,000 to put those dogs to sleep and get rid of them. They lost money, and guess what? They don't have any last complaints. So we want to look at what's logical and what's going to work. I like the idea of a dangerous dog law. I like the idea of the punishment. I'm not real thrilled about the enclosure for the dangerous dog. I think that's almost cruel. Punish the breed. Punish the owners.
She is here to save her Molly dog. We received Molly when she was probably 6 months old from a friend who bred them. I look at Molly like a child. I would hope that the city of Conroe would not deem my child dangerous just because another 17-year-old kid was out drinking and driving. Not my dog. Somebody said you don't take food from dogs. We've trained Molly. Annabelle can sit on the floor when that dog is eating, put her hand in the bowl. The dog doesn't care.
When you get to the podium.
Council, and Mayor, I thank you for this opportunity to speak. I'm Von Pardue. I'm 65 years old. I am a kind man, mild-mannered man, a Christian, if you please. When I was walking on my walk Wednesday morning, the dog came out of, I don't know if he was in the yard, I really don't know where he was, and attacked me. When I looked around, it was a pit bull, and he didn't inquire about what I was doing. He just, when I turned around, he jumped on me and at my head. And I'm in good condition, and I've been away 200 pounds. Well, I wrestled with that dog. I knocked him down, and I jumped on him, and then I thought, oh, I'm gonna hurt this dog. I let him on a little bit. He got loose from me, and then he started, got my hand in his mouth. And I thought to myself, that's true what they say about a pit bull. They got a lot of grip in the jaws, because these fingers I felt was going. Well, I hit him in the ribs as hard as I could, and he turned me loose. And please don't tell me how kind your pit bull is, because they're bred to kill and fight. This is
That could have been any other animal.
then why do you have a
Now,
pit
wait,
bull?
hold on now. We're going to have a little order in here.
I'm all for
And,
order, sir.
and this gentleman speaking, he did not yell out while you were up here.
Okay.
So, from now on, there'll be none of that in this room. You can continue to speak, sir.
If there's anything that I could do to ban these pit bulls, I would, because that is what they do. All the time, they kill people, they kill kids, and someone thinks that they're so cute. If, oh, I've got a pit bull, and I'm really tough, you know, because I've got a pit bull. And why would you have a pit bull? And I do think it's cruelty to pin them up in a closure, but if people got to have them, put them where they can't get out and chew on people. And there's lots of people walk in our neighborhood, and the city of Conroe is to protect and to serve our citizens. And y'all were elected to fulfill your duties to the majority, you know, of the people. It is my responsibility to be responsible to my my neighbors, the rest of whoever I come in contact with as a citizen, for probably all in all about 30 minutes before I was able to turn loose into the patrol car. So I ask that as citizens that are concerned about these pit bulls, and there's other breeds, I know, and I'm sure you say, well, somebody aggravated the dog, and I'm against that. I don't pick on animals. But anyway, that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Well, we appreciate you coming today, Mr. Pardue. Would anyone else like to? Are you from Pearland too?
No, sir.
Okay.
It'd take me more than 3 minutes to list my credentials as far as pet care and experience. I would say this, though, I've helped write 2 animal control ordinances in the past, and I wonder, do you have a animal control advisory board to help put together these this animal control?
I've got to be in with Ryan and Mr. Martin.
Okay, at this time, the next action agenda is the animal control dangerous dog ordinance. Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion that we
Second.
approve the ordinance as will be outlined by City Attorney Montgomery.
Thank you, motion by Councilman Jennings. Any second?
A second.
Second by Councilman George. Any discussion? Our City Attorney, Marcus Montgomery, do you have anything to?
Well, Mayor Pro Tem, if you'd like, I'd certainly be happy to present a brief overview of the ordinance and perhaps
I
to try
appreciate
to
it if you would.
respond to at least some of the issues that have been raised here during the discussion.
Can you speak up so we can hear you?
I'll certainly do that. Let me try to, first of all, address some of the major concerns that I think have been voiced here tonight, and perhaps just clear up some confusion at the outset about this ordinance. There seems to be a tremendous amount of concern about the city attempting to impose breed-specific regulations or regulations that in particular focus on pit bulls or other breeds of animals. This ordinance does not do that. State law prohibits municipalities from enacting breed-specific regulations, and this ordinance does not attempt to do that. And I want to repeat, does not attempt to specifically prohibit or regulate any particular breed of animal. There is an existing state law that governs dangerous dogs. It provides definitions of what dangerous dogs are, and it spells out a detailed process for how an animal is determined to be a dangerous dog. The ordinance that is before the council this evening is best viewed as a supplement to that existing state law. It does not make substantial changes to existing state law. A question was asked about what is a dangerous dog and who makes that determination. So very briefly, under the state law, a dangerous dog is a dog that outside its secure enclosure commits an unprovoked attack that causes bodily injury to a human being, or it's a dog, again, outside its secure enclosure that commits some unprovoked act that would make a reasonable person believe that the dog is in fact a potential danger to causing bodily harm to that person. That's basically what the state law says. A question was asked about what is the meaning of unprovoked. There is no definition of that term in the state law. The City of Conroe ordinance tracks, follows, and supplements the state law. And so my response to that question is unprovoked is the common sense meaning of the word, and it will have the same meaning in the city ordinance that it has in the state law. The ordinance will basically do two things. State law right now requires that a dog that is a dangerous dog be confined in a secure enclosure, or when it's not in its secure enclosure, it requires that the dog be kept under the control of the owner on a leash. The state law does not specifically describe what the secure enclosure is supposed to look like, but the law does say that municipalities can adopt additional regulations that will spell out in greater detail what the secure enclosure is to consist of. This ordinance includes the requirements to spell out those secure enclosure details. Some of those things have been alluded to this evening, but basically the ordinance requires that a dangerous dog be kept in a chain link or equivalent enclosure that has walls at least 8 feet tall and has a roof securely attached to the top of it to prevent the animal from climbing out. And it also requires that the enclosure be mounted on a concrete slab to prevent the dog from digging out from under it. In addition to that requirement, state law also permits the city to enact regulations that govern how the dangerous dog will be kept. Like many cities around the state that have adopted these kinds of ordinances, the ordinance that's before the council proposes that if a dog has been determined to be a dangerous dog, it must be spayed or neutered. The ordinance also would require that the dog be microchipped, which is a small electronic device that can be injected under the skin of the animal, and it can be scanned electronically and provide information about the owner so that the animal can be easily identified. The ordinance expands on the state law requirement that's already there that says when dog's not in a secure enclosure, it's got to be held on a leash. And this ordinance adds to that by saying the person who's holding that leash has got to be at least 18 years of age and has got to be physically capable of managing and controlling the dog. The ordinance does one other thing that expands on or supplements existing state law. As I said to begin with, there are two definitional requirements for what a dangerous dog can be. One of those definitions is the dog commits an unprovoked act that would make a reasonable person believe that the dog might in fact be a danger to that person. The Attorney General has previously ruled in construing that language that kind of action that can make a reasonable person think a dog presents a danger to them includes attacks that the dog may commit on other animals. So the ordinance has an additional definitional requirement that basically expands upon that requirement to say that a dog can be considered a dangerous dog if it commits some unprovoked act on another domestic animal that inflicts serious bodily injury or death on that domestic animal. That requirement, Council, we discussed in the work session yesterday evening. The ordinance that I put before you on the bench this evening includes the revision language that we discussed in yesterday's work session meeting. One of the concerns that have been expressed during the process of developing this ordinance was that definitional requirement could be construed very broadly and could accidentally capture animals and have them unfairly classified as dangerous dogs when they're essentially acting in response to an outside threat. The definition that we've inserted in the ordinance applies, first of all, only to dogs that are running at large. If an animal is held on its leash by the owner, then this definition is not going to apply to that dog. Common scenario that I think many people have discussed and been concerned about is dog owner who is walking his dog on a leash and his animal is accosted by another dog that's running at large and a fight occurs, and the owner who has his dog on the leash, perhaps that dog inflicts injury on the other dog, and there is concern that the owner's dog might be found to be a dangerous dog. By limiting the application of this definition to dogs that are running at large, I think we've pretty much eliminated that concern. A second issue that was addressed really comes out of, I think, the growing use of electronic fences. Many people use electronic fences. Dogs are able to remain safely confined in a front yard area, perhaps where your dog cannot get out, but the electronic fence does not prohibit other animals from coming into the yard. And similar concern was expressed that maybe in that circumstance, an owner's dog who was on his own property and was not an aggressor could somehow or another be classified as a dangerous dog. The ordinance definition that was developed specifically says that it does not apply to an attack or an incident that occurs on the owner's own property. Therefore, I think we've eliminated that potential ground of concern. That's basically what the ordinance does. If I can just address a few more issues that were raised during the course of the discussion, and certainly be happy to answer any other questions that council may have. Obviously, there is a history of serious dog attacks, not only in Conroe, but that throughout the state of Texas, one of the speakers alluded to the attack on the lady who was riding the lawnmower. I believe that lady's name was Stiles. There is a lot of sentiment to be able to impose more stringent penalties on owners who act irresponsibly and whose irresponsibility leads to tragedies like this. First of all, a municipality like the city of Conroe has a very limited ability to impose any serious penalty. The city of Conroe cannot impose any penalty that inflicts jail time. That's beyond the capacity of the city council to do, even if they wanted to do it. Secondly, the maximum fine amount that the city council can attach to any ordinance violation of this type is a $500 fine. So, like it or not, basically, a $500 fine is the maximum penalty that can be attached to an incident like this. Now, there are bills that are pending before the legislature right now. Earlier in the evening, I placed at the back of the room copies of 2 Senate bills that have just been level of penalty that's involved for these offenses. I would strongly encourage you to communicate your concerns to your legislators, communicate with Senators Shapley and Wentworth if you wish to do that. But this is obviously an issue that has got to be addressed and solved at the level of the state legislature if more serious penalties are going to be imposed. Similarly, for those of you who have expressed the desire to see the council have the ability to do breed-specific bans, to ban pit bulls or any other breed that may be considered dangerous, that will take a change in the state law. The dog is running at large. That dog is involved in an incident that leads to a dog bite on a person. If you haven't had the rabies tags on that dog, if you've allowed that dog to run at large, we're going to see a $500 penalty from you on each one of those violations. I have also asked the prosecutor to pursue escalating fines in other cases where we have people that permit their dogs to routinely run at large, so that each time there's a subsequent violation, the amount of that fine goes up. And finally, we've discussed with the animal control people and the police department the need to take a look at the enforcement of the running at large problem and to be able to make as much progress as we can towards encouraging voluntary compliance in the community. So those are the issues that steps that we've taken. If I can answer any additional questions about the ordinance, I'll certainly be happy to do that, council, but I would commend it to you for its adoption.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Seeing none, motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. We'll now go to item number 3, and that's annexation of the county elections.
Tell me, okay, first of all, your first and last name?
I'm Beth Powell.
P-O-W-E-L-L?
Yes.
Okay, Beth, tell me what happened last week.
I'm a little hard of hearing.
Tell me what happened last week.
Well, on Friday night, I was trapped in my truck by a loose pit bull. Finally was able to get out and to get into the house. My next door neighbor was also attacked by the same pit bull, and his black poodle was killed that night by the pit bull.
Did animal control come out and pick the dog up then, or what happened?
No, I didn't contact the police until later. The police were unable to do anything because there were no injuries to humans. And so I was told to call animal control. Animal control contacted me today. The person who I'd been calling since Monday to animal control, unfortunately they weren't putting 936 before my telephone number when they called, and so finally someone figured out at animal control maybe they better put 936, which is the area code, and they were able to get me today. And I was told that a notice would be put on the owner's door.
In the meantime, basically what? going home, having to watch, make sure the dog's not in the area before you get out now.
Yes, yes, and also to protect children who come to my house too, to make sure that they're safe as well. But apparently we're going to have to wait till somebody gets bit or killed. I don't know.
Where in Conroe do you live?
I live just a few blocks from here on McCall Street.
Your name, sir?
Von Pardue.
Okay, Von, you were attacked last week, and you're at City Council today. What do you think about this ordinance that's coming in?
I think that City Council has just done the best that they can at the time, and I'm satisfied with the response.
What about on the state level? What do you think needs to be done there?
I think that
you heard the attorney address where the city can only do so much. What do you think needs to be done with the state?
I think they need to take a few of those pits over at Austin and turn loose and let them make their decision.
All right. How's your hand doing?
Oh, they're getting well.
Okay. Yes. Okay. Right. Okay. Mary, Tommy Metcalf, tell me what do you feel about this ordinance now?
Well, I think we did something that really helped the citizens of Conroe. We tightened up the ordinance for the dangerous dogs, and now the citizens can feel a lot more protected here in Conroe.
What about these loose dogs? I mean, you see them running around the streets loose. Animal control officers constantly busy with these. Is there anything more can be stepped up on that?
Well, we're going to step up enforcement. These dangerous dogs should not be loose, and we're going to step that up, and there's going to be fines to pay. And in fact, as you noticed tonight, $500 is going to be the standard price to pay for having a dangerous dog loose.
What about any dog loose? I mean, you get several dogs, will run the streets. You'll see them and it's not a one-time deal. You'll hear animal control being called out 2 and 3 and 4 times the same locations.
Well, and the city attorney addressed that. If it's numerous violations from a particular owner, the fines are going to be stepped up.
Okay. What about state level? What do you think? You really think they need to pick up on it a little bit there?
Oh, we certainly do. Yeah, and I think that there are 2 Senate bills that are now being proposed by the state legislature. Senate Bill 411 and Senate Bill 405 addresses some of these issues. And so we look forward to seeing how those go through the House.